Hi, and welcome back to another Tech Talk. Today's talk will be discussing AI for education. We hope you enjoy.
Welcome to another Tech Talk, and today we're going to talk about AI tools for learning. AI has been very much a hot topic lately, and so this is the goal of this Tech Talk is not to give you an ethical framework for using AI for your learning. Rather, I just want to show you practical tips in order to better study, just to study quicker, more efficiently, learn more, faster, and the DTS policy will really help you determine should you use AI in this instance or instance. That's not my goal here. DTS will have a formal policy published and you can go read that. But for right now, I just want to show you some ways that can better facilitate learning for you. So let's just jump right in. First, I want to start with there's some naysayers out there with technology generally and AI specifically on people they tend to resist AI, and I want to address some of those concerns first, and talk about why AI really is such a big deal, and then we'll go into some of the popular AI tools, right? What's out there? What are people using? And then we're going to talk about specifically ChatGPT features and use cases for ChatGPT. I'm gonna go into a lot more detail specifically with ChatGPT. I could use all sorts of softwares. That's one I'm the most familiar with and I use most often, and so that's why we're just going to dive into what that technology can do. And so let's just jump right into it. So first, we're really asking the question, why is AI such a big deal? And the thing that I like to tell people is that for the first time in human existence, something other than human beings are synthesizing information. What do I mean by that? You have these books over here, right? And each book holds information, but they can't collaborate on that information. You can't stick one book on top of another. We have 3 books on top of each other. They're not communicating with each other in any way. It's just static information that we have to ingest with our minds before it can then be utilized for education, for learning, for new research. That's what new research really is, right? It's the combination of things that have otherwise previously never been combined or synthesized. The first time, I kid you not, the first time in human existence, don't get theological with me, say, yes, okay, angels can think, and so they can synthesize information. God can think, so he can synthesize information. I think you'll understand what I'm saying when I'm saying, for the first time, something other than human beings can synthesize information. That's AI. That's generative AI. And so that's why I'm extremely excited about the potential of this technology, because it's never been done before. So I just want to give that initial push for everyone to understand you should probably be looking into how to utilize this technology, because it is the next greatest thing since the internet itself, since the codex, since the book. I mean, it is an incredible innovation and invention. So now let's talk about some AI fears. These are things that people say where they're concerned that AI is going to do things that hinder, say, human development or personal development, things like that, or education in general. We're having a tech and education talk right now, right? So they're scared that it's going to make education worse, not better. So people will say it stunts critical thinking. The thing about this, though, is I equate ChatGPT with a tutor. Tutors are designed not to shortcut critical thinking, but to give you shortcuts. That give you shortcuts in learning so that you can learn it faster, better, quicker, and then you can get up to the level that you need to be to function in whatever that realm is. And so if you use ChatGPT appropriately, that's what it can do. If you use it lazily, then of course it can shortcut your critical thinking. It can make you less critical of a thinker, but it doesn't do it by default. You have to choose how you use the tool before you can decide if it's actually hindering or helping your thinking. I've heard common complaints that assignments are too easy. I've actually heard professors in class say this. They bemoan the days where students had to grind and they had to find articles, and the whole research process was very difficult. And they say, now today you can find anything on the internet, as if that's a bad thing. My response to that is that's what technology does. Technology is always designed to make things better, to make them easier, not so that we can be more lazy, but so that we can do bigger and better things than the previous generation. We're always building on top of each other with technology. And so this is just another step in that direction. It's not, if technology is making us lazy, yeah, that's a problem. But if technology is just pushing us forward, that's what it's always done. Going all the way back to the codex, to the book, to now, there's no difference. ChatGPT gives them ready-made homework and solutions, as in you can just type a prompt into ChatGPT and turn that paper in. My response is people who have wanted to cheat will always cheat. And so that's a heart level issue that technology can't solve. But for those of us who want to learn, who care about learning, who want to continue to press into these topics that are interesting for us, it's going to facilitate that. It's not going to hinder that. Yes, it's going to make cheating easier for some people, but it's always existed and it always will. That's not a technology problem. That's a people problem. ChatGPT gets things wrong. ChatGPT gets things wrong. Yes, so do I. So do you. Everyone gets stuff wrong. We're always going to need a fact check. There's no book, there's no article, there's no generated content that isn't susceptible to being wrong. And so we always need a fact check, no matter what it is. It could be an encyclopedia, it could be a research paper, it could be a dissertation, and yet we have flaws. And so we always have to double check our sources. Like Dr. Spiegel says a lot, he says trust but verify. And so we may not want to go that far with ChatGPT yet. We may want to distrust and verify. But that doesn't change the fundamental idea that no matter what we're doing, we should be fact-checking, not just with ChatGPT, because everyone gets stuff wrong. And the more ChatGPT develops, the less it will get wrong, and it will hallucinate less and less. Next one, just two more of these. ChatGPT undermines teachers' authority. I would say, yeah, kind of. If teachers or professors or whoever think that their job is purely to disseminate information, the transfer of information, if that's what they think their job is, then yeah, ChatGPT is going to replace them soon. But if they believe in the full development of a human being, that's not something that ChatGPT can just overnight take over. And lastly, it will erode people's memory capabilities. This has always been a concern of technology in general. It's going to make people dumber or things like that. People said that about the calculator, about the internet. Even Plato famously said that about books. He said people's memories will get worse if we start writing things down. But we all know that books have done wonders for education, generally speaking. And that's just the same with technology in general, that it always levels up our game. It doesn't make it worse. Now that we're done with our AI fears, let's talk about some basic tools that are in play right now in the just different spheres. So we've got basic AI tools here on the left. We have ChatGPT. That's your classic example of generative AI. And if you hadn't heard that term before, that really just means generating original content, something that no human previously typed up or anything like that. It's synthesizing information and it's generating it. Like I talked about synthesizing information earlier. You've got Logos. So the reason I'm focusing on these is because these are for our education, not just generally speaking, right? Logos has a new AI feature. It's got multiple aspects to it. It's really good. It's very self-explanatory, so I'm not going to spend too much time today talking about it. Then you've got Quizlet. Quizlet has a really cool feature I'll talk about in a minute. And then you've got many more. You've got Copilot, Gemini, Grok, DeepSeek, so on and so forth. There's a lot of AI tools out there. And so ChatGPT I'll get into in more depth. But for Logos, the two features that I use the most are the summarize and the search functions. When you summarize something, you can summarize sections of books, paragraphs, sections of articles, full books, full articles, just to give you a broad overview. And to me, this combines really nicely with a feature in Quizlet. In Quizlet, there's this automatic flashcard generation feature. Excuse me. And if you pay for it, I believe it's $50 a year or something like that, you can upload an unlimited amount of PDFs, and it will automatically turn those PDFs into question and answer flashcards. The reason this is incredible is if you pair that with Logos, and this is how I do it when I'm studying for PhD, is I will be reading a book and I will first use the summarize tool in Logos to summarize a section. I don't want to summarize a whole book or even a whole chapter. I like to do subheadings in a chapter because it's it's detailed enough to get into the weeds of the arguments. After I get that summary, I read through the summary, I get a gist of the idea. Then I go to the book and I start reading through the book. As I'm reading through that section of the book, I will edit the summary based on the information in the book. If I feel like it missed something that I feel like, oh no, that's really worth emphasizing for my particular interests, or maybe the AI summary just missed kind of the main point, even though it got all the data points, it missed the main point of the argument. So I'll add all that. It doesn't take too long. It's a lot easier than taking notes from scratch when you're reading a book. Taking notes line by line when you're reading a book is extremely tedious. This makes it so much quicker. I do that. I get done with an entire book. Now I have this massive 50 to 100 page PDF of a summary of a book. And if that book is really important, say I'm preparing for comprehensive exams at the end of my PhD, I can plug that directly into Quizlet. It will create question and answer flashcards for every little bit of that PDF. Now I have gone from reading a book to having flashcards of the entire book, just basically by spending a tiny bit more time than it would take to just read the book. And then I can just review those flashcards over and over again. And I was a psychology major in my undergrad. And so my favorite class was human memory, where we spent a whole semester just learning about how do people learn stuff. And the main conclusion that I came to and that this class came to was the amount that you process information, your depth of processing determines the amount that you remember something. And so flashcards is one of the best ways to facilitate that, because you are forcing yourself, you're quizzing yourself. It's not just reading something, you are asking yourself the question every step of the way, do I actually know this? And then if you don't know it, you turn the flashcard over and you're like, oh, that was the answer. You do that 3 or 4 times, you have it down. That's just how our brains work. And so this is the quickest way to really master any book. It's extremely efficient, and I love doing it when I have to. I don't do it for every book, but it's the important books that are worth doing this for. And then, of course, if you don't want to do the flashcards, you can still do the summary stuff from Logos. So I won't go into any more details on Logos or Quizlet than that. That alone has saved me hours and hours of studying, and it's facilitating learning. It's not hindering my learning. I'm actually learning more because of these AI tools. And then just lastly on this, there's many more AI softwares out there. So Grok is the one associated with the X platform, and I use it for news because it queries all of X and all the posts and stuff related to being on X, and so you can get really good news updates. Honestly, probably better news updates in my opinion than on ChatGPT. Gemini is the Google version of AI, and it is kind of the front runner for video generation right now. If you've seen any of those podcasts out there, those fake podcasts of like Moses in the middle of the Red Sea or something like that, typically those are generated by Gemini. But it's hilarious and it's really high quality, and most of that's being done on Gemini. And then Copilot, if you use the Microsoft Suite, Outlook, Word, things like that, Copilot is being integrated into that system so that it can help you with your emails and things like that. And I think it's probably going to get to the point where it can draft your emails for you. You can lightly tweak them and send them, and you're never going to have to write another email again. So that's not really education related, except you do have to send some emails as a student, and so it can be extremely helpful. I find Copilot will be a lot more helpful for me in my IT work than it will be for me as a student. So now let's talk about some ChatGPT features, and after we've done the features, then I will actually show you. I'll show you ChatGPT right now. So I'm going to briefly mention these, and then we're going to head over to the actual website, and I'm going to show you what each of these features, where it's located, and briefly explain what it does. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about how to use these features specifically in your studies. So we've got custom GPTs, project folders, memory, thinking, image and video creation, and the agent feature. So let's go on over to ChatGPT now. So here I'm right here at, I believe their domain now is chatgpt.com. It used to be something weird like openai.something. Whatever, and they finally just got chatgpt.com. And so you can go here. I have the $20 a month paid version, and here's my recommendation. It is. I use it every day. Some people feel like $20 a month is a lot of money. Cancel your Netflix subscription and get this instead. This is way, way more beneficial for you than Netflix. And then just stop eating out once a week. And then good, now you've made your money back and you can buy this instead. It is beneficial for everything you do. Work, school, even ministry, like you name it. There's just so many use cases for this. So let's look at a few of them. So first, let's talk about custom GPTs. So custom GPTs, you give it a custom prompt, and it remembers that prompt forever. And so every time you go back to that custom GPT, you don't have to remind it, hey, I want to use you for this purpose. So for instance, I have a PhD research assistant custom GPT. And what I did was I uploaded the DTS the DTS style guide. And the DTS style guide basically tells you everything you need to know about how to write a paper, the kind of language you should use, the academic language, the type of citation, bibliographical, and not your in-text citation, but your footnote citations. It gives you all of that. Everything that you need to know is in this guide. I uploaded it to the custom GPT because it accepts files and folders, and it can read those documents. And then I told it, I'll actually show you the prompt. I'll show you the first part of the prompt. Let me edit GPT. And so I went here and ironically, I had ChatGPT create the prompt for me. So I didn't have to type all this out. I said, give me an idea of a good prompt that would work for a PhD research assistant so that my custom GPT knows exactly how to help me in my PhD research studies with a particular emphasis on citation and formatting. And then it spit out this long thing that then I just copy and pasted into here, and I edited a tiny bit for what I needed. The main thing that I want to draw your attention to is somewhere in here, wherever it is. Here it is. I asked it to make sure that this document that I uploaded, the DTS style guide, is the arbiter of all style-related questions. And so every time I ask this custom GPT, and let me just show you now. Let's just go back. Every single time I ask, specifically my PhD research assistant, this question, Every time I ask it any question, it will simply follow those instructions before it tells me an answer. And so I will ask it, cite Keller's book, The Reason for God. Give me both the footnote and bibliographic info. So I can just ask it, and it will, if it can find the rest of the information, it'll find it online, and it will spit it there. Of course, you want to double check a lot of this stuff. I'm not saying believe it completely, but I am saying it saves you a bunch of time. And so now it just spit out the footnote, Timothy Keller, The Reason for God, Belief in an Age of Skepticism, New York, Riverhead Books, 2008, add your page number. Shortened footnote, Keller, Reason for God, page number. That's all accurate, because I know the style guide, and I know that's right. And then bibliography entry, Keller, Timothy, The Reason for God, Belief in an Age of Skepticism, New York, Riverhead, 2008. And so it's got all that information for me right there. I don't have to worry about citation anymore. And I just find it extremely helpful to have these custom GPTs so that you don't have to continually remind ChatGPT, hey, this is what I want to do this time. No, you just have those pre-built. You say 5 or 6 that you know you'll use all the time. You build it once, it stays, it's automated, and you can just query that information when you need it. Now, secondarily, there's something similar called projects, I believe. They're either projects, yeah, they're projects. And you can house multiple chats within those projects to keep them organized. On top of that, you can also upload files to these projects so that ChatGPT can specifically read these documents. So what I've done is I'm already trying to look into what I want to do for my dissertation. And first, I asked ChatGPT, has this research ever been done before? I'm looking into the worship of Jesus, particularly the word proskuneo, so this idea of bowing down and worshiping. Has anyone ever done an exhaustive semantic domain study on this word where they categorize every single instance of the word in Second Temple Judaism, in the larger Greco-Roman literature, all that kind of stuff, right? I ask it, has this research ever been done before? It can't look for everything, but if you use another tool that I mentioned called the thinking aspect, so let's create a new chat now. Test. So if I go here and instead I hit thinking, now I can ask it a longer question, or I can ask it a question that it will think on longer. So I used this along with that initial question, has this research ever been done before? And for me, it queried over 100 different websites. And it will show you which websites it's looking at. It's not looking at Wikipedia, it's not looking at blogs, it's not looking at these things. All of them were library websites. They were library websites of different academic institutions. And so it can find abstracts, it can find summaries, all this kind of thing, and it can tell you, has this research been done before? And so it came out with like 20 or 30 different monographs, dissertations, and articles and books all related to this topic. And it said, I don't actually think this has ever been done before. I'm actually double checking that right now, and I'm actually using the library resources to try and figure out, is this actually true? But it got me way ahead of the game just from one 5-minute question. I asked it a question, and it took about 5 minutes to generate the response because it has to go through so much stuff, right? But that's what it's doing. It's searching the entire internet on my behalf, so I don't have to go to hundreds of websites, read hundreds of abstracts, and ask that question. Again, going back to the beginning, you do need to check your source, right? You cannot believe this verbatim, but it is a huge benefit, especially when for me right now, I'm going to learn more and more as I go through this PhD program of how it can be used, but it is a huge benefit already for me starting the process of what is it like to do original research? What is it like to prepare for a dissertation? Finding a topic that's never been done before. It's been a huge help so far. So I already went over 3 things. I went over custom GPTs, project folders, and this idea of thinking. I'm not going to go over image and video generation very much. That's this thing here called Sora. But you can also do it right in the chat. If you just want an image that you need generated for like a class or something, or maybe you want a good background, or a popular thing is people like nice backgrounds on their PowerPoints. You can generate all that right here. You can make sure the prompt needs to be really good though. It needs to be precise. You need to give it dimensions. So like say, make sure it's a 16 by 9 dimension because that's your typical like thumbnail size and things like that. And then lastly, agent. Agent is really interesting too. Let me see here. So right here, it's called agent mode. And I'm not going to show you what this is because it's really clunky right now. It's a brand new technology, but it's amazing because it can basically work on a computer for you. The most basic example I can give you is it can buy your groceries on Amazon for you. You can log into your Amazon account, and then it can select all the things you want it, put them in the cart, add your mailing address, and purchase it for you and have it delivered to your house. All you have to do is one prompt, say, buy my weekly groceries, and it would do that for you. Obviously, this is a silly use case because Amazon already has some of those features, but just that's the most basic function, and this is a product that has just come out about 6 months ago. It's going to continue to get better and better, just like every other piece of technology that ChatGPT already has. And so it's going to be a fantastic feature where you're going to be able to tell it things like, hey, edit this video for me, and it's going to pull up its own version of Premiere Pro or DaVinci or something like that, and it's going to be able to edit a full video for you using the same software that you would use, spit out the final product, and you can edit it as you need to. So its development is extremely fast right now, and I'm excited to see what it turns into. So let me go back to my presentation real quick. The only other thing I didn't mention is memory. ChatGPT, if you want it to, it can remember everything now. So it can remember all your past conversations, everything like that. I use that. A lot of people are scared of that because they're like, oh, what about my privacy? But I just found it improves efficiency. If ChatGPT can remember the context from a conversation 2 weeks ago and you ask it about it again, that's just going to speed up. You don't have to have as many prompts. It's not as good as a custom GPT, which always remembers precise instructions, but it's still extremely valuable. So now I just want to talk through a few more use cases. I've already mentioned several, but I just want to talk through, now that you know these features, how do you use them for education? So I've already mentioned this idea of a tutor. Let me go into that more. So another good example is I was studying for the entrance exam to New Testament PhD studies. And one thing that I was having a really hard time wrapping my head around was the political history from Alexander the Great to the time of Jesus. It sounded really messy to me, and every book or article or thing, excuse me, that I read on the topic, it was almost too much detail for me. I just wanted like broad strokes, get me oriented to what's going on, and then I can dig into the details. None of these books were giving me that. So what I did was I went to ChatGPT instead, and I said, give me a really broad overview of the political history related to Palestine from Alexander the Great to Jesus. And so I'm going to do that right now. Give me a broad overview of the political history from Alexander the Great to the time of Jesus, with particular emphasis on Palestine and the Jews. So I did that, and now it's just going to spit out a broad overview, and it's going to start with Alexander the Great, and it's going to talk about how he ushered in the Hellenistic age, and then after that, after he died, the generals split up and they split his land, and so then the Ptolemies and the Seleucids are kind of the main players in this time frame. And so first you got the Ptolemies, who are associated with Egypt. They were ruling over Palestine, and then after that, then the Seleucids, who were kind of in the Syrian area. They took over Palestine, and this is when the Hasmonean revolt took place, when the Seleucids were in power, and Antiochus IV and all this kind of stuff. Excuse me. I didn't know any of that before I started preparing for this exam, and I learned most of it from ChatGPT. Of course, I always double check my sources with books, but this broad overview helped me get the lay of the land in a way that no other resource had helped me do. I just felt so confused until I started asking these questions. And the best thing about this is it's not a dead document. I can ask it specific questions about aspects of it. It's like having a private tutor right next to me all the time. Like, I do think back to Alexander the Great, and he had Aristotle, I believe, was his private tutor. It's like all the biggest historical figures in the history of the world, it feels like they all had a private tutor, right? That's what it sounds like. If you were affluent, you had this private tutor, and so you learned, and you had the best education. Like, I have a better private tutor than Alexander the Great did, and it costs me $20 a month. Like, that's pretty incredible. And you just have to know how to use it. And it's really just creativity is your only limit. Like, you are limited by your imagination and really nothing else. Obviously, the technology is not perfect, but just knowing how to use it is pretty incredible. Another thing is being a general editor. What I don't mean by that is don't have it write your paper for you. Don't write a paragraph, spit it in ChatGPT and say, make this more formal. That is borderline cheating, and that's against DTS policy, so I'm not encouraging you to do that. I also think it probably stunts your growth as a thinker and a writer, because you learn to think by writing. That's pretty typical for people, is as you're engaging in the writing process, you're developing your mental skills, so I don't want you to shortcut that. Instead, after you have a rough draft of your paper, you can do a couple things. Upload it to ChatGPT and say, what grammar and style mistakes do I have that you recommend changing? Don't change anything, just give me recommendations. Now it's a proofreader for you. You can also say, I am making these arguments in my paper. I think they're strong arguments, but I want to steel man my opponents. I want to make sure that my opponent's arguments are represented well. Can you give me any pushback on my own arguments that would maybe find loopholes in them? Now, ChatGPT is going to spit out all of the counter arguments to your arguments for your paper. And now you can incorporate those counter arguments into your paper, and it makes it just a more robust paper. It makes it a more well thought out, broader, deeper paper. It's pretty fantastic. You can also have it as a modern language part. If you know another modern language that you want to practice, you can open the voice feature. You can just directly start speaking to it in that language, and it will respond to you in that language. And now you have a live partner to practice your language skills with. You can give it particular types of ways that you want to frame it, or you can tell it if you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, topics you want to cover. Maybe there's a specific thing you want to prepare for. It's an incredible help. And honestly, I'll do this a lot when I'm driving, is I'll just turn that on and I'll just start practicing, because I'll just have a live conversation partner with AI in another language. It sounds funky, but it really, really works. And then I already showed you the research assistant. Like, it can do so much more than I think we realize it can. And then a quick recall facilitator. You learn all these terms in seminary, right? You learn like metonymy of cause and effect. And if you're like, what is that word again, where it's like you say the White House, but you mean the president? What is that called? That's metonymy of part for the whole. If you can't remember that, you just say, hey, what is the rhetorical device when someone says White House, but they really mean the president? Metonymy. It's things like that it just really helps you. You don't have to go pull a book down from your shelf, flip through it and be like, here's the section on metonymy. Yeah, you might not be able to remember it, but with this, you can do it in 5 seconds. Pretty amazing. So those are just a couple tips. We could go into so much more detail than we've done here, but I hope that gives you a sense of what ChatGPT and AI generally can do to help you learn faster, learn more efficiently. If you use it to take shortcuts, it will stunt your growth. That's true. It will stunt your educational growth. But if you use it responsibly and if you use it intentionally, always thinking of how you're using it to facilitate learning, not hinder learning, I do believe it is the greatest technological asset for learning since the internet itself. Thank you for your time.
We hope this information was helpful. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you at the next Tech Talk.